lest I should wake the two guards who were dozing on either side of her, wrapped in their blankets, saying, 'It is I, Hans, come to help you.' 'You cannot,' she answered, also speaking very low. 'Get to your master and tell him and my father to follow. These men are called Amahagger and live far away across the river. They are going to take me to their home, as I understand, to rule them, because they want a white woman to be a queen over them who have always been ruled by a certain white queen against whom they have rebelled. I do not think they mean to do me any harm, unless perhaps they want to marry me to their chief, but of this I am not sure from their talk, which I understand badly. Now go, before they catch you.' 'I think you might get away,' I whispered back. 'I will cut your bonds. When you are free, slip through the window and I will guide you.' 'Very well, try it,' she said. So I drew my knife and stretched out my arm. If the Great Medicine had still been there I might have known better. I forgot the starlight which shone upon the blade of the knife. That girl Janee came out of her sleep or swoon, lifted her head and saw the knife. She screamed once, then at a word from her mistress was silent. But it was enough, for it woke up the guards who glared about them and threatened Janee with their great spears. Also they went to sleep no more, but began to talk together, though what they said I could not hear, for I was hiding on the floor of the room. After this, knowing that I could do no good and might do harm and get myself killed, I crept out of the house as I had crept in, and crawled back to my tree." "Why did you not come to me?" I asked. "Because I still hoped I might be able to help Sad Eyes, Baas. Also I wanted to see what happened, and I knew that I could not bring you here in time to be any good. Yes, it is true I thought of coming, though I did not know the road." "Perhaps you were right." "At the first dawn," continued Hans, "the great men who are called Amahagger rose and ate what was left over from the night before. Then they gathered themselves together and went to the house. Here they found a large chair, that seated with rimpis, in which the Baas Red Beard sits, and lashed two poles to the chair. Beneath the chair they tied the garments and other things of the lady Sad Eyes, which they made Janee gather, as Sad Eyes directed her. This done, very gently they sat Sad Eyes herself in the chair, bowing while they made her fast. After this 8 of them set the poles upon their shoulders, and they all went away at a trot, heading for the bush veld, driving with them a herd of goats which they had stolen from the farm, and making Janee run by the chair. I saw everything, Baas, for they passed just beneath my tree. Then I came to seek you, following the outward spoor of the waggons, which I could not have done well at night. That is all, Baas." "Hans," I said, "you have been drinking, and because of it the lady Sad Eyes is taken a prisoner by cannibals, for had you been awake and watching, you might have seen them coming and saved her and the rest. Still, afterwards you did well, and for the rest you must answer to Heaven." "I must tell your reverend father, the Predikant, Baas, that the white master, Red Beard, gave me the liquor, and it is rude not to do as a great white master does and drink it up. I am sure he will understand, Baas," said Hans abjectly. I thought to myself that it was true, and that the spear which Robertson cast had fallen upon his own head, as the Zulus say, but I made no answer, lacking time for argument. "Did you say," asked Umslopogaas, speaking for the first time, "that my servants killed only 6 of these men eaters?" Hans nodded and answered, "Yes, 6. I counted the bodies." "It was ill done. They should have killed 6 each," said Umslopogaas moodily. "Well, they have left the more for us to finish," and he fingered the great axe. Just then Captain Robertson arrived in his waggon, calling out anxiously to know what was the matter, for some premonition of evil seemed to have struck him. My heart sank at the sight of him, for how was I to tell such a story to the father of the murdered children and of the abducted girl? In the end I felt that I could not. Yes, I turned coward, and saying that I must fetch something out of the waggon, bolted into it, bidding Hans go forward and repeat his tale. He obeyed unwillingly enough, and looking out between the curtains of the waggon tent I saw all that happened, though I could not hear the words that passed. Robertson had halted the oxen and jumping from the waggon box strode forward and met Hans, who began to speak with him, twitching his hat in his hands. Gradually, as the tale progressed, I saw the captain's face freeze into a mask of horror. Then he began to argue and deny, then to weep. Oh, it was a terrible sight to see that great man weeping over those whom he had lost, and in such a fashion. After this a kind of blind rage seized him, and I thought he was going to kill Hans, who was of the same opinion, for he ran away. Next he staggered about shaking his fists, cursing and shouting, till presently he fell of a heap and lay face downwards, beating his head against the ground and groaning. Now I went to him and sat up. "That's a pretty story, Quatermain, which this little yellow monkey has been gibbering at me. Man, do you understand what he says? He says that all those half-blood children of mine are dead, murdered by savages from over the Zambesi. Yes, and eaten too, with their mothers. Do you take the point? Eaten like lambs. Those fires your man saw last night were the fires on which they were cooked. My little so and so and so and so," and he mentioned half a dozen different names. "Yes, cooked, Quatermain, and that isn't all of it. They have taken Inez too. They didn't eat her, but they have dragged her off a captain for God knows what reason. I couldn't understand. The whole ship's crew is gone, except the captain absent on leave and the first officer, Tomaso, who deserted with some Lascar stokers, and left the women and children to their fate. My God, I'm going mad! I'm going mad! If you have any mercy in you, give me something to drink." "All right," I said, "I will. Sit here and wait a minute." Then I went to the waggon and poured out a stiff tot of spirits into which I put an amazing dose of bromide from a little medicine chest I always carry with me, and 30 drops of chlorodyne on the top of it. All this compound I mixed up with a little water and took it to him in a tin cup, so that he could not see the colour. He drank it at a gulp and throwing the pannikin aside, sat down on the veld, groaning, while the company watched him at a respectful distance, for Hans had joined the others and his tale had spread like fire in drought parched grass. In a few minutes the drugs began to take effect upon Robertson's tortured nerves, for he rose and said quietly, "What now?" "Vengeance, or rather justice," I answered. "Yes," he exclaimed, "vengeance. I swear that I will be avenged or die, or both." Again I saw my opportunity and said, "You must swear more than that, Robertson. Only sober men can accomplish great things, for drink destroys the judgment. If you wish to be avenged for the dead and to rescue the living, you must be sober, or I for one will not help you." "Will you help me if I do, to the end, good or ill, Quatermain?" he added. I nodded. "That's as much as another's oath," he muttered. "Still, I will put my thought in words. I swear by God, by my mother, like these natives, and by my daughter, born in honest marriage, that I will never touch another drop of strong drink until I have avenged those poor women and their little children, and rescued Inez from their murderers. If I do, you may put a bullet through me." "That's all right," I said in an offhand fashion, though inwardly I glowed with pride at the success of my great idea, for at the time I thought it great, and went on. "Now let us get to business. The first thing to do is to trek to Strathmuir.